And so all of these things kind of come together, and I'm like, I'm participating in like the biggest fraud of the 21st century. We're putting people on drugs that don't necessarily work. They wear off over time. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that these drugs are actually making people worse because the brain is not designed to be on drugs for like decades at a time. And we've been lying to people. We've been telling them they're safe and effective without saying, oh yeah, for like the less than a year they were studied for. And I mean, that's just the start of this. After this, there's a huge propaganda machine going on. There's corruption in academia and also in how the news covers this. And it was just this thing that I just kept on digging into. And I was just like, oh, now I see what happens when you have like $1 billion pharmaceutical and eventually use that influence and resource to shape the narrative around these drugs. If people actually knew this, 9 out of 10 people offered these drugs would go, no thanks, I'm not gonna roll the dice on this, along with all the other problems that I had mentioned. And so it's I think it's probably the biggest untold story in psychiatry right now. It's gaining more traction. People are talking about it more and more, but everyone needs to know about it.
For years, North America has rightly focused on the opioid crisis, a catastrophic failure of overprescription. But there is another crisis quietly devastating lives: the epidemic of psychiatric medication overprescription, specifically SSRI antidepressants. For decades, the foundation for prescribing these drugs was the simple story that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance, a lack of serotonin. But that narrative has officially been debunked. Major research has now shown no consistent evidence to support the idea that depression is caused by an up or down dysregulation of serotonin. And when you build a system on a faulty premise, the human cost is immense. These medications carry the risk of horrific, long-lasting side effects, the most under-recognized of which is post-SSRI sexual dysfunction, or PSSD. Sexual dysfunction affects up to 70% of users while they are on the drug. And crucially, for an unfortunate few, their sexual function does not return even after stopping the medication. My guest today is an insider who witnessed the failure of the system firsthand. Dr. Josef Witt-Doerring started his career in big pharma, then worked as a medical officer at the FDA in the Division of Psychiatry. From the inside, he saw that the long-term controlled trials for these drugs were non-existent, with most clinical data extending no further than a few months, leaving doctors to practice outside the evidence. He is now a leading advocate for the safe tapering of psychiatric medications and recently discussed this on the Tucker Carlson podcast. He joins me today to expose what he saw in the shadows of the medical industrial complex and discusses how to safely reclaim your health from a system built on bad science. Join me in vivo with Dr. Josef Witt-Doerring, from FDA insider to big pharma critic.